I mean, the Warriors 1-5 trip. They were down 40 at halftime. Wiseman and Patrick Baldwin put up some numbers, but the Warriors are coming home now 3 under 500 and hoping to get healthy. And I think the question we were just kicking around with Willard and with Kyle about the two timelines, I mean, it's becoming more and more clear on a night in, night out basis that the Warriors might have to take a look at tabling that.
Yeah, you know what? And we had Bob Myers on the executive show. Whitey was in JD, and Myers was saying, basically alluding to just that. You know, they got to see what they got and what they don't have. But I'm just not used to the Warriors, you know, guys in that uniform going on the road and losing 2 games in the fashion that they did. Those were no-shows. And I get you were without Wiggins. I get you were without Steph Curry. And, you know, I expect more. I'm not mad. I'm just blown away, especially last night with no Kyrie Irving for Brooklyn. And I'm up here at every bar, at every dinner I go to, talking about the young three with Wiseman, Kuminga, and Moody. And this is an opportunity. Yet I'm not blaming them, but I'm somewhat disappointed. And then Draymond Green, Dre, I love you, buddy, but these are the games that I'm looking at you to kind of check these dudes and get them going. And it just seems, just the night before. Sunday he was invested in Toronto, but it's like, Dre, it ain't just about getting buckets. I feel like I'm looking at you to set the tone.
You know what the difference was between the game
Minus
Sunday?
68 during 2-game trip, right?
The last couple. Yeah. I stopped counting.
Oh, wow.
I did. I stopped counting. I mean, they gave up the third most points ever in a first
91 and a half.
You're down 91-51 at that point. I mean, it was the 29-point margin in the first quarter was the biggest point differential in any quarter for any team.
Yikes.
It was the worst quarter that any team has had in terms of point differential this season.
Big deal, no deal in John Dickinson's world.
It's a big deal. The whole thing is a big deal. The difference, though, just the one point that I wanted to make, the difference between the Toronto game and the last 2 games, and you're not going to like this, but it does play to exactly what we're talking about. You might like it. Yeah. I'm probably projecting on you a little bit. That was a game the Warriors identified against Toronto they could win early. And if you look back through who was playing and who wasn't, they went away from the young guys in that game. There was hardly any Kuminga.
That was a 5-minute Kuminga game. Yeah,
there was a little bit of Moody, and there was no Wiseman until the game was decided. And so it coincides with, and DiVincenzo got hurt and sick. JaMychal Green got sick.
To be fair, they were both.
Wiggins wasn't back. Okay. So to me, they kind of figured out how they wanted to play with the guys that they had, minus Wiggins and Steph, and then you took a couple more guys away, which meant more young players are going to have. That's the rat on the table, Goo. The rat on the table is when the Warriors have been able to tighten the reins and go for it this season, it has directly coincided with the young players playing less minutes or barely at all.
So what are you telling me? I mean, it sounds like you're telling me they're unplayable, or if you play them, expect not to have much success. Because I'm going to say this to that. I'm looking at this road record before Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins went down, and we still didn't have answers. And there were a lot of times I was screaming on the same microphone to Steiny and yourself, Jay, give me more Wiseman. So you couldn't blame the youngsters at that juncture. But now after talking to Bob and watching this play out, and we're more than a quarter through the season, something in regard to reinforcement has to come the Warriors' way. And my question and dilemma, and I don't get paid to do this, JD, I need your help. What do you have that people will covet, and what do you have that people how do you facilitate to get a PJ Washington in a Warrior uniform? Because now when I woke up this morning, I said, you know what? It's about Steph. It ain't about Wiseman. It ain't about Moody. It ain't about Kuminga. All these people calling in, Priest, I love you to death. Reality has slapped me in the face. You owe injured Stephen Curry, Clay and Dre, whatever you think where they're at in their career, you owe them the microwave player. Instant. You need instant offense, instant defense. You need a vet.
You need a vet at this point. You need another vet. at least one.
Because this thing could get off the rails if it's not now.
Well, Bob Myers was on with you guys yesterday, and Whitey was in for Steiny, and I think this is the perfect way to get into the conversation, to rerun one of Bob's answers, because he was asked about making a move. And so we'll play it for you. We got a couple people on the phone lines, 888-957-9570. Here's Bob Myers on assessing when it's right to make a move.
I think that we, at some point soon, in the next ever many few weeks, have to decide what is the answer to that question and then what specifically is the answer to it. So I think right now we've seen we can play with a lot of the really good teams, but we've also lost to some teams we would think we could beat, and our records are records, and that's not something we expected it would be at this point in time. So that's what we have to decide. And the ways to get better are internally or externally. That's pretty simple this time of year. There's trades, or there's your team plays better. We have guys that can play better, I believe that, and we haven't seen the best version of us, but that could be me just being too optimistic. We have to see it at some point. We're how many games in? 32, I think, something like that. So yeah, that's a good question. I'm supposed to be focused on that and not anything else. So that'll be my time will be spent on answering that.
All right. So I think when you look at the team when they've had Steph and they've had Clay back in the fold, when they've basically had everybody together, right? Yeah. They've had the starting five plus, let's say, Poole and DiVincenzo, who are the clear-cut 6 and 7 at this point. When they've had those players available, I think they believe that they are still a pretty good team. The starting lineup is among the best in the
plus
NBA.
Minus, if you're into that.
Plus minus was it. So I think there's almost two different ways of looking at it. You're looking at the starting group, and you're looking at what that group can do together. And then you're looking at the team you have when you start taking pieces away from that. And you're also looking at, well, when you're successful, how, are the young players really a big part of when you're successful? And the answer to that is no. For the most part, they haven't been. But I think it's interesting because what Bob Myers is getting at is that they're going to have to figure out in the next month if they're good enough to even salvage it. That's the question. Like, are they going to be? It's one thing to say that you think you have a high end with the main guys, but if you get 8-10 games under 500, like at that point, even bringing everybody back, like, can you go on Are you going to go on a 20-10 run in the final 30 games? Are you going to be, is it going to be something like that? 25-10 over 35 games, something like that, to pull yourself back toward 500. Or do you focus more at that point on, player development and the guys that you have? But I think the one thing that's gone by the wayside, Goo, is you can't do both.
Okay.
You can't do both anymore.
Yeah, you know what, Jay? And I feel like you're in Boston with that green on. I'm going to just tell you this. I feel that, but when you're defending champs, ain't no puberty. Ain't no, nobody ever not goes for the back-to-back. You want to defend the throne. And that's what the Warriors are doing. Ben Affleck in the movie Daredevil could see once the starters came out the game, the guys on the bench from game one, there was no gelling. There was no cohesiveness. So now, to me, as much as I was attached to Wiseman, Kuminga, who I think is not going anywhere, this is about, and we had Fitz on Monday. He was talking about, you know what, Goo? It's about what you just talked about, 7th, 8th, 9th, those guys.
Sure.
And right now, as much as I want to fight you and say, you know what, Jay, you're putting it at the wrong doorstep. These are youngsters. Bob Myers uses he used the word trade. So that's already on the table. And then I go back to what Steiny was saying last year, before we thought they were going to win it, because we were all surprised. Iguodala, the big three, Dre, Clay, and Steph, kind of went to management and alluded like we need a veteran in here. We don't have enough reinforcement, but they did. But now I get 2020 vibes, and I had to pour myself a shot last night, a couple shots.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, and this ain't 2020, Goo, because Steph's coming back. Hopefully Wiggins is back Christmas. My point to you is they're 5.5 back. I'm not panicked on the seeding, but you got to have, this is strength in numbers, and right now it's stress. And I said that a month ago, but now it's that again.
Yeah, it's not strength in numbers because they don't have the numbers. I mean, they just don't.
Or you got the wrong numbers.
They have 7 players that I think they trust right now. And
is JaMychal Green one of those?
No.
Okay.
No, but he's probably 8th if you had to include an 8, but I think he's been relatively inconsistent as well. Here's the other part of this. If you decide you're Bob Myers and you decide that you want to make a trade, well, who are you going to trade? And I think that's where you're talking about Wiseman, you're talking about Kuminga, and you're talking about Moody. And I'm not saying you're going to trade all three of them necessarily. I put Poole out of that equation because Poole doesn't make enough money this season to be traded for a big.
And
you're not trading him this year. Yeah, maybe in the summer or in the offseason, I could see that once he kicks in and he's a $30 million player in terms of the average, then maybe you got some action there. But you're really talking about Wiseman, Kuminga, and Moody, and I think you're also talking about making trades that don't net you a star. Like anytime you think of trade the young guy, trade that, you're thinking about this. To me, it's more, would you trade one of the young guys for a role player or for a couple of role players?
So when I say P.J. Washington to you,
he's a role player,
right? But he ain't a star.
But again, I'll say to you what we were talking about in the crossover is, would you trade Kuminga for P.J. Washington?
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, no Warrior fan would want to do that. But that's the kind of move.
But how desperate are the Warriors trying to?
But if you think you can win a title,
they got to be thinking that, right? They got to be thinking they can. Well, you just did it last June.
I think that's what the next month is about, Goo, and why Bob Myers.
Well, it's not off to a good start then.
No, it's
because
not.
I'm gonna tell you what, for the people in the back. Oh, Goo, you keep harping on the road record, which out the gate was just awful, but now it's at 3-16. JD, I'm telling you, the 12-2, it's about to get tested. I don't care who's coming now. This version of the Dubs,
for sure,
has me on edge.
Well, that's
like on edge.
It should, because the one thing that I've heard too much, I think, over the last few days is, come home and everything's fixed.
Did you didn't hear that?
Like
no, you didn't, Jay. Not Curry away, no way.
Like you come home, you're still playing without Curry. You won one game without
Wiggins,
and you've got good. Like the teams that they're playing coming in are not.
Some have already beat you.
And they're, you got Memphis is coming for you.
Ja talking a little too much for me, but you're right.
That's what they do.
Okay,
that's what they do. They got it. They got
the whole Western Conference. We got them.
They've got an obsession. They've got a Warriors. Right. They've got a Warriors obsession.
But Christmas could get ugly, right?
Well,
I'm worried.
It could get ugly, but it's also the point where you're hoping, if you're the Warriors, you got Wiggins back. You basically have you want everybody but Steph back on Sunday, and then it's go time. And then you're going to try to go 6-2 at home. Now, I think that's
I'm
probably
with you.
Probably too tall an ask.
You're going to laugh at me. Give me 5-3 or 4-4.
Well, to me, 5-3 is like the only way you're making a dent in anything is if you go 5-3.
The phone lines are packed, but before you go grab them, I got to get this off my chest. Jay, I know how hard it is to make the NBA. I know, and I told Stein, I know there are no scrubs. We like to have fun, but I never thought in a million years this team would miss Bjelica. It would miss Otto Porter Jr. And my goodness, I never will forget the show that happened after GP2 left. People were mad.
Sure.
I kind of smiled and giggled. They'll find another one. But, Jay, those were three big parts of this team that I took for granted. And right now, this season is the example, the epitome of veteran that you can trust to come in at any juncture of the game. They don't have that. Truly.
They and look, Gary Payton II is not played.
That doesn't. I get that, but still, you miss him.
You miss him. Okay. No, you miss what he. They haven't.
No doubt.
They haven't totally replaced what he provided.
I like Dante, but he ain't
same thing
that.
with Otto Porter.
Right.
And Bjelica to a lesser extent as well. There's no question about it. All right, 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. Real quickly here. The 957thegame.shop.com is live. Okay, so the perfect time of year, holiday season, grab gifts like our newest Brock Purdy shirt and hoodie. Head over to 957thegame.shop.com now for yours. Again, phone calls coming up here, 888-957-9570. We've also got Ross Tucker and Cam Inman as well. It's all sponsored by the Golden State Warriors here on 95.7 The Game. So let's get to the phones, and we'll start with Doug in Berkeley here on 95.7 The Game. What's up? What's up, Doug?
Hey, guys. I've been listening to you for last, I don't know, before you guys, came on. There's a lot of talk. I'll try to be quick. I got a few points I'd like to make. I'm a Warriors fan, first and foremost. They're my team. But I'm also a sports fan. As a sports fan, I've seen, I know you guys have seen, how difficult it is for great teams to repeat, let alone win a bunch of championships in a short period of time. The bickering starts like with Shaq and Kobe. Injuries happen. Complacency sets in. You get bad breaks. Other teams get better, or a combination of those things. We've been blessed in this Bay Area that we live in with great, great teams. We're used to the Dubs now. Remember when they weren't the Dubs that we're seeing now? We've got the Giants, the 49ers with Montana and Young, and now we're hoping again that they're going to be great. So we expect excellence every year, but that's just not reality. All these other teams, some of whom are good, are trying really, really hard also, and everybody goes after the champ. So
sure.
I just think we need to have our diehard, fervor about it.
Yeah.
But if we don't win this year, let me ask you this: if we don't win this year, but we win next year, would you take that? Would you have taken that
in a heartbeat? I'd take that in a heartbeat.
Yes, and thanks for the call, Doug.
Yeah.
But the issue is
Steph Curry. The guys are getting older. That's all. To
right.
Doug's point,
The guys are getting older. One, but it's also you're less apt to believe that you can count on the young players next year, because that's the thing. The young players are not trending in a direction right now where I think we're learning the answer that it's tough for them to be counted on this year. But wouldn't you say, Goo, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but wouldn't you say that they're trending towards how can you even look that they're going to have a big impact on it next year?
Okay.
You can't pencil them in.
Yeah.
Like if you're going into the offseason right now, you're not thinking I'm counting on this from Moody, Kuminga, and Wiseman. I'm thinking, how do I get better players in here than Moody, Kuminga, and Wiseman?
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm in love, and you already know this. I've kind of accepted the reality of Wiseman. If you want to put Moody in there, that's fine. I think I'm the only one, and I know there's more Warrior fans that appreciate what he does. I get you.
I'm not writing off anybody's career.
No, and I know you're not, but Kuminga is the one that I'm like, Jay, those shoulders, the explosiveness. On a good day, he's a problem. He's the one I'm not getting rid of. But now, if you say, hey, Goo, let's double back, I can get you Kyle Kuzma, PJ Washington, just a plethora of guys that you need. Then at that point, I'd be like, you know what? See you later. But Kuminga, I'm sorry. That arrow's pointed up, Jay.
Xfinity Mobile text line, Goo, the 408. I love the revisionist history that turns Bielitsa into Tony Kukoc because JaMychal Green has struggled.
Yeah, and remember, I said he was slow foot, Bielitsa, but he rebounded.
I think it's more about Otto Porter.
He was a stretch, and he could shoot. So could Porter.
Yeah.
Rebound, step out, stretch, shoot. They don't have that.
No, I think they thought they were going to get a little bit more of the shooting from JaMychal Green that they got from both of them, and it just hasn't been.
Hey, and real quick, GP2 used to hit that corner three. Mm-hmm. He would take it.
Absolutely. And DiVincenzo's been a nice player. He's just a different player.
Let's put it around the table. Jordan Poole, I love you. He's regressed. For whatever reason. Give me that, Jay. Through 30-odd games.
I don't know that he's regressed.
What do you mean?
I don't know that he's regressed as much as he hasn't played well. And I think in particular on the road, I don't know what's going on there, but he's been really bad on the road and better at home. More efficient in a lot of.
Trying to go too fast. The things you thought he had under. Regressed is like we watched 82 games.
Well, no, but regressed is also like
he's
taken a step back, and that's
how I feel.
Who he's become.
Okay,
you know what I mean? I guess that's my definition.
I'm not making any definitive statements. I'm worried about him.
I think it's fair to be worried about him. I think it's fair to be worried about, and he's definitely not playing as well as he did last year. And you wonder why are the reasons for that?
Somebody said I'm on too much eggnog. Kyle Kuzma.
What about Kyle Kuzma? Kyle Kuzma would be excellent for the Warriors.
Every time I see
PJ
him,
Washington would be excellent for the Warriors. Jay Crowder would be excellent
just playing with these guys. The Warrior way too. You got to factor that in. Kyle Kuzma, boy.
There's plenty of guys that can help.
And they're young, relatively young still.
I mean, again.
Rebound.
Any of those names.
Don't blow by.
Any of those names, and those are younger options.
Right.
But
please tell me, I don't know.
What you have to ask yourself, Goo, is would you give up a Kuminga or a Moody or a Wiseman to get one of those players. And
the question is, do you think Steph would? Like, how much does he want that number 5?
I think Steph would be okay with it. I think
you think he thinks this team can do it? I honestly believe if Honest him, he'd be like,
I think he thinks the top 6 can do it or the top 7 can do it. Like, that's the conundrum. That's the thing that I keep coming back to.
It's a big one, though.
And you can hear it in Bob Myers' voice.
Oh, you did.
It's can the players that are going to be out there for the next month play well enough to where the Warriors are close enough to get everybody back and make a run. But again, them making the run has nothing to do with the young players. It has to do with can you have all of your main guys in line to where you don't have to play the young players as much, because when the Warriors got hot after 3 and 7, it was because they were not playing the young players other than a little bit of Kuminga at all. When they win in Toronto, they don't play the young players hardly at all. They figure out a group of veterans that can get them through that night, and they win doing it that way.
Yeah, and I'll say this for what you said, just to stay afloat. My experience, forget just the Warriors, like Monte, we're NBA League Pass junkies. Nobody's really jumped off the charts. And with that said, JD, the Warriors are still only 5.5 back from the 1 seed. So they would really, or Steph's absence would be delayed, which is a fear of mine, for them to really have no shot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, they could lose 5 in a row, and you still
can't happen. Can't happen. Like, that's where this season is really. And again, I keep going back to Bob Myers, but that's where this season hinges right now. It's, can the Warriors come home and not get wrecked in these next 8 games?
How did they? You know what? I know we're against it. They beat Boston. JD, that shocked me. With no Wiggins and Curry played, I was shocked. How do you beat Memphis after these 2 showings?
I'm not saying you can't beat
we don't
Memphis.
know if Wiggins is going to be there, but hopefully he will be.
Yeah, I'm not saying you can't beat Memphis. The Boston game was a shocker. It was. And the Celtics.
Was that more bad Boston?
Boston's
Tatum was in his own head, having ghost.
Yeah, some of it, but Boston's been bad since then.
Yeah.